So the question is Adam Silver actually America's most wanted bank robber? I simply bring this up to say television ratings are actually down 48% since 2012. And yet, Adam Silver was able to negotiate a $76 billion deal. That's up from $2.5 billion in their last contract that they negotiated. Honestly, seriously, this just sounds like highway bank robbery to me.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
Coming up on the NBA Rundown, we're going to get into Adam Silver and whether or not he actually truly did commit a bank robbery. We're going to get into that. Plus, what are the problems with the National Basketball Association right now? I've got a very long list. I have some ideas for the commissioner that I think would immediately solve some of the television viewership issues. So we're going to get into all of that. I did want to also point out, though, that Adam Silver is not the only bank robber in the NBA. I mean, just think about what Ben Simmons is getting paid this year. Ben Simmons is actually making $40 million this year. $40 million for 5 points a game, just under 6 rebounds and 6.6 assists. Look, I'm telling you right now, if anybody pays him next year over $10 million, they should be completely run out of the NBA. All right, so we know that the National Basketball Association NBA Cup Finals was actually on Tuesday night, and if you were like me, you tuned in to watch some of it. You may have noticed, as I did, that clearly the seats were not full. Now, I checked the attendance of the game. The NBA claims that over 18,000 people actually showed up to watch that game, and I can confidently tell you right now, I don't think they had more than 12,000 people actually in that arena to see the game. Now, we know that 18,000 plus tickets were sold. That doesn't mean that 18,000 people actually showed up. Now, despite all of the controversy that the NBA has been dealing with over the past month or so related to, of course, its television rating dips, I mean, ESPN has actually dipped 28% year over year. That means almost 30% less viewership of NBA games on ESPN this year over last year. So we're going to get into all of that. I did want to say, though, one thing for sure, I think Adam Silver is a hell of a commissioner. When you think about what he's actually been able to do with team valuations as well as getting this new contract. I mean, get what you can get is what you should do when you're a business person. But I can't imagine what the presentation was actually like to those networks that forked over $76 billion. You've got to imagine that at some point he had to show a TV ratings slide during his PowerPoint presentation. I've got to believe that was actually there. All right, so I want to go through the list of what's wrong with the NBA, and then I'm going to come back with some quick solutions for that. Hey, if you're new to the NBA Rundown, please go ahead and subscribe, and of course, like this video. We're also on Apple as well as Spotify. All right, here's the list for you. And this is a list of complaints that I've heard literally in the last 3 days. Number one, it's the refs. The refs call too many technical fouls, and they are slowing down the game. The second one is there's way too much three-point shooting in the game today. If you happen to suffer through the Chicago Bulls Boston Celtic game the other night, you might have wondered what the hell was going on. There were 108 three-pointers taken in that game. Now, I also want to point out, as a result of all of those three-pointers shot during that game, that a lot of them weren't actually made. It was just absolutely ridiculous. In fact, the Celtics shot 25% from the three-point arc in that game, with the Bulls a little bit better at around 36% in that game. If you flash forward to the destruction of the Golden State Warriors last night by the Memphis Grizzlies, the Grizzlies beat them by 51 in that game. I want to also point out that the Grizzlies took 48 three-pointers in that game for a 56% plus percentage from the three-point arc. So, claiming that three-point shooting is a problem in the NBA may be true if you're talking about teams that shouldn't be shooting three-pointers. Now, the Memphis Grizzlies, at least against the Golden State Warriors in that particular game, absolutely did the right thing. I mean, if you're going to shoot over 50% from the three-point arc, why wouldn't you make that part of your strategy? All right, other reasons, there's not enough dunking. The NBA promotes the old players too much. An example of that is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is next going to be on national television in like the third week of January. Between now and then, that's the next time you will actually see SGA at least on a nationally televised game. It's hard to find local games. It's gotten too expensive to pay for television. There's not enough drama in the NBA anymore. And my personal favorite of the list of things that I've heard people say over the last 3 days, it's the NBA, it's the inside the NBA guys' fault for talking down the product. I absolutely love how some people on Fox Sports thought it was a good take to say it's Shaq's, Kenny the Jet Smith's, and of course Charles Barkley's fault for why nobody's actually tuning into the game. It's because those guys are being honest about what they actually see on the court, which of course is why we've all been tuning into Inside the NBA all these years. Now, I want to touch on a couple things. Now, first, I do want to say that while I think Adam Silver has done a fantastic job with the NBA Cup Finals and the NBA Cup semifinals should not be in Las Vegas. They should simply just keep those in their own local arenas. That certainly would make sense. And I think you wouldn't have any issues at all from a ratings perspective. In fact, I think the ratings would be better if you actually did that. Look, I love the NBA script writers commercials with all the players going to Las Vegas and all of that. But I think trying to have those games in a neutral arena, it's safe to say that the NBA Cup is not the Super Bowl, Adam Silver. All right, so that's one thing. But at the end of the day, you and me and most people I know ultimately turn into a sporting event on television simply to watch the actual drama unfold. In other words, if I'm watching an F1 Cup race and my wife walks in, she immediately asks me to show her the latest accident that actually happened. If I'm watching the NFL, she'll immediately ask me to show her the latest bad hit and or fight that broke out. Same thing can be said about the NBA. I've never heard my wife actually say to me, show me the latest three-pointer that was made. She wants to see the drama actually unfold. That is really what we all want. Now, one of the problems with drama is ultimately at the foot or feet and shoulders of the NBA refs, as well as the National Basketball Association as a whole. They've gotten way too constrained on foul calls. They've gotten way too constrained from a technical foul perspective. They've tried to clean the game up so much to the point that they've taken all of the drama, quite frankly, out of the game. If you really want to talk about what's wrong with the NBA right now, It's that there is not enough drama in the game. Sure, you can blame free agency for that. I mean, LeBron has proved over the years he has absolutely no loyalty. He finally got his ring in Cleveland and bailed on the next flight out of town. Ultimately, we understand that's the world we live in. You are going to go work for the person that's ultimately going to pay you the most amount of money. You will leave your job if somebody offers you double or triple what you're currently making. That is the world that we currently live in. And of course, the NBA is just a reflection of that as well. So it's entirely up to the National Basketball Association to understand who its young players are. Look, to not have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander show up on national television again until like January 29th is highway robbery. It is stupid of the NBA to actually do that. Ultimately, when I think about what's really wrong with the association, yeah, I think there's some problems with too much three-point shooting in the game. Yeah, I think there's some problems with not enough dunking in the game, but those are going to be hard things for the NBA to actually control and or relegate. The only thing that they can really do at this point is work with the referees to stop calling those stupid technical fouls and put some real drama back into these games. Now, last night in Minnesota, they tried to do that with the Karl Anthony Towns return of the cat to Minnesota against Anthony Edwards. And while it was a good attempt by the NBA, it was the right game for them to run last night. Ultimately, if you watched any of that game, you got 5 minutes into the third quarter and you immediately shifted to the Real Housewives of whatever, because that game was obviously over at that point. So the NBA, while they did the right thing, have to continue to do the right thing with their nationally televised games, in that every game that they put on national television should include some sort of drama line in it. In order for that to actually happen, the NBA is actually going to have to take a less, if you will, strong stance on technical fouls and on what players actually say to one another. In other words, they need to clean up the game by making it dirty once again. All right, those are my thoughts on the National Basketball Association at this point. Love to know what you think. Please go ahead and drop your comments in. All right, for the NBA Rundown, I'm Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't